5 seconds. Start. The downward trend in fresh coronavirus infections in India continues to inspire confidence that the pandemic is on the wane. The daily new cases fell below 10,000 for the third time this month. India's tally is now 10.9 million cases, and fresh reported fatalities were recorded below 100 for the eighth time this month, according to Health Ministry data. On January 1st, there were around 20,000 fresh infections, which fell to about 11,000 by the month end. Should this sharp decline continue for this month too, then it would be a truly proportions turn of events. So far, around 8.2 million doses of vaccine have been administered to healthcare workers and some front-line workers, though this is still below the first lot of 16.5 million doses of Covid-Shield and Covaxin that the government commissioned from their manufacturers. India has also managed to donate vaccines to neighboring countries. For now, supply seems to far exceed demand, with only around half of those enrolled for vaccinations showing up for their doses. Saturday marked 28 days since the first doses of vaccine were administered and time for the first batch of those inoculated to show for their second dose. The government is also considering administering vaccine to those above 50 and those younger with comorbidities from March. India is also likely to get 97 million doses of Covid-Shield by June, half of them by March. This is far crying from many countries where demand for exceed supply and experiments are underway to test if different vaccines can be administered as first and second doses so that more people may get at least one dose. However, the disappearance of a pandemic does not equate to vanishing of the virus. The results of the ongoing serology surveys from the ICMR meant to estimate the prevalence of COVID antibodies said that only around 21% of population has been exposed to the virus. That combined with the fact that there is so far no reliable information on the kind of coronavirus variants prevalent in the populations means that India can ill afford to be complacent. The dreaded variants such as the South African one have not yet been identified in India. Key mutations under bracket E484K and N440K that are shown to help the coronavirus evade antibodies have been reported in India. In spite of consortium of labs analysis variants since December, there is no firm indication from the center if the UK variant has been found outside of those with a history of international travel. However, the government's message to not be complacent and continue to adhere to mask use is in the right scientific spirit, given the uncertainty about virus evolution. Considerable hesitancy continues to exist as evidenced in Chhattisgarh. The center should work on furnishing efficacy data on Covaxin as well as improving public confidence in ways that the available stocks of vaccine can be efficiently used. The Biden administration's decision to end US support for Saudi Arabia's Yemen war is a signal to Riyadh that the Trump era open support it had enjoyed is a matter of the past. The United States offered support to Saudi Arabia's campaign against the Houthi rebels in Yemen when Barack Obama was the president. Donald Trump continued that policy, overlooking the disastrous effects of the war that has turned Yemen, one of the poorest Arab countries, into a humanitarian catastrophe. In its last hours, the Trump State Department designated the Houthis, who are backed by Iran, as a terrorist organization. Rights groups have condemned the move, saying that the designation would complicate aid efforts as the Houthis control a sizable part of Yemen, including the capital. Mr. Biden has now taken a different line, initiating steps to remove the Houthis from the terror list, among other actions. This is part of his larger attempts to rewrite the United States West Asia policy, which under Mr. Trump was almost entirely focused on containing Iran. The administration's message seems to have reached Riyadh. Saudi Arabia ended a nearly 4 year long blockades of Qatar, another American ally, after Mr. Biden was elected president. It has also signaled that it would carry out domestic reforms, keeping human rights in focus, but it is yet to make any defined moves to wrap up the Yemen conflict. Yemen is a case study for a war that has gone wrong on all fronts. When the Saudis started bombing the country in March 2015, their plan was to oust the Houthis from Sana'a, restore a pro-Riyadh government. Despite the Saudi-led attacks, the Houthis held on to the terrorists they captured, while the Saudi-backed government of President Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi was teetering on the brink of collapse. After 5 years of fighting, the United Arab Emirates pulled out of the war last year, and the UAE backed Southern Transitional Council wants southern Yemen to be an independent entity, while these multiple factions continue to fight. More than 10,000 people are killed in attacks, and tens of thousands more died of prevalent disease. Yemen also stares at famine. It is a loss war for everyone. Saudi Arabia has failed to oust the Houthis from Sana'a and is now facing frequent rocket and drone attacks by the rebels. The Houthis are living in permanent war, unable to provide even basic services to the people in the terrorist they control. Yemen's internationally reorganized government practically lacks any power and legitimacy at home as the war is being fought by other players. Ending the war is in the best interest of all parties. Mr. Biden should push Saudi Arabia and its allies to end blockades of Yemen and initiate talks with the country rebel factions.